In 1918, the First World War ended with a ceasefire that silenced the guns, but left the underlying political and economic tensions intact. The 1919 Treaty of Versailles formalized this pause by imposing heavy financial penalties and full war guilt on Germany. Rather than stabilizing the continent, these terms collapsed the German economy and created a period of deep national resentment. To manage future conflicts, nations formed the League of Nations. This was the first global organization established specifically to resolve international disputes through open diplomacy. However, the League possessed no independent military or enforcement mechanism. It relied entirely on the voluntary cooperation of its members, meaning it could not intervene when major powers chose to ignore its mandates. The combination of a crippling peace treaty and a weak international referee created a power vacuum. This left millions of people in economically ruined nations looking for any leader who promised to restore their national strength. In Germany, Adolf Hitler rose to power by documenting the failures of the 1920s. He leveraged mass unemployment and hyperinflation to turn public desperation into support for his radical National Socialist Party. Nazi ideology centered on a belief in racial superiority and a requirement for Lebensraum, or living space, for the German people. This belief system allowed the state to mobilize the entire economy toward rapid, aggressive military expansion. To the south, Benito Mussolini had established a fascist state in Italy. Fascism is a governing system where a single dictator holds total control, prioritizing nationalistic expansion and the violent suppression of all internal dissent. Simultaneously, Imperial Japan pursued a policy of expansion in the East. Driven by a need for industrial resources like oil and rubber, military leaders used extreme nationalism to justify the invasion of neighboring territories. While these movements began as regional land grabs, their leaders soon recognized a shared goal. They coordinated their military ambitions to form the Axis powers, intending to dismantle the existing global order through force. Diplomatic efforts failed on September 1, 1939, when German forces invaded Poland. This direct violation of international law forced Britain and France to enter the conflict, marking the end of the post-World War I peace. After Western Europe fell, the United Kingdom had to stand alone against the German Air Force. The subsequent Battle of Britain was the first major campaign fought entirely by aircraft, determining control of the skies over the English Channel. In 1941, Germany expanded the war significantly by launching Operation Barbarossa. This massive invasion of the Soviet Union broke their previous alliance and opened a new 1,000-mile eastern front. The conflict became truly global on December 7, 1941, with the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Japan intended to disable the U.S. Pacific Fleet to secure unfettered access to Southeast Asian resources. These rapid military escalations forced separate regional wars into a single interconnected theater. With all the world's major industrial powers now fully engaged, the global conflict became an inescapable total war. The scale of managing a simultaneous two-front war required an immense mobilization of manpower and industry. Nations had to coordinate operations across thousands of miles of ocean and vast continental plains. In the Pacific, Allied forces used an island-hopping strategy to seize strategic bases. This involved brutal, close-quarters combat on isolated islands, where the natural environment was as dangerous as the enemy. In Europe, the war targeted civilian infrastructure. Sustained aerial bombing campaigns reduced historic cities to rubble, displacing millions and blurring the lines between military and civilian targets. This ideological radicalization led to the Holocaust, a state-sponsored program of systematic murder. The Nazi regime utilized its industrial capacity to kill 6 million Jews and millions of others in a network of extermination camps. With an estimated death toll of up to 85 million people, the conflict moved far beyond a traditional struggle for territory. It functioned as an event of systematic ideological extermination. By 1945, the major powers were exhausted, and the world's industrial centers were shattered. The physical and economic landscape of Europe and East Asia had to be completely rebuilt. To prevent a recurrence, the victors established the United Nations. This new body was given the administrative and military authority to enforce peace, a power the earlier League of Nations never possessed. The world's political borders were redrawn. This map shows the globe splitting into East and West, establishing the rival spheres of the Cold War. These divisions created the framework for modern international trade and defense pacts. The organizations that manage our global economy and security today are the direct results of this post-war restructuring. The collapse of the pre-war empires necessitated a total reconstruction of how nations interact. Our current global political and economic framework is the direct administrative result of the decisions made at the end of the Second World War.